Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today. Welcome, Alan.
I am very glad to be here. Hello, Tricia.
Hello. So we have T. Alan Horne. He is an author of two books. One I know is Secret Sky, that is a middle grade fantasy, correct?
That is correct.
It kind of hinges or hints on sci-fi themes as well, I think,
Yeah,
right?
I call it a science fantasy, but you can certainly categorize it as fantasy.
Okay. And you have another book that's already out, right? Called Advent
Yes, my
9.
first book came out in 2022. Advent 9. It's available everywhere.
Okay.
But
And is that a middle grade too?
no, that is a young adult. It does contain subject matter that is more appropriate for mid to late teens and after that. I don't expect a lot of people to graduate from Secret Sky directly into Advent 9.
Okay. Yeah, and it looks like Advent 9 might be the first of a series.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
I'm hoping to get the second book of that series done as soon as I wrap up the second book of Secret Sky.
Oh, that's fun. So you're going to have a lot of books coming out in
Yes, it is my hope to
time.
publish at least one book a year for the rest of my life. That is my life goal.
Very cool. That sounds a lot of fun. Well, we're going to rewind and dig down deeper into both Secret Sky and Advent 9. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, maybe we should handle them chronologically. Let's start with Advent 9 because that was how my author journey started, so it may be a better place to start.
That sounds fun. You want to jump in and just tell us about the characters, the story, and maybe how you got published?
Advent 9 is a story about a world where superheroes have gone extinct. And the last superhero on Earth, who has no memory of how he started hero work or why he's the last one left, tries to prevent the apocalypse while solving the many mysteries that, surround his life. And the only hint he has for that is a recurring nightmare in which a disembodied voice compels him to count to 9. And so I wanted to create a really interesting superhero story. And one thing that happens during the course of the story is that Advent 9 meets up with an old supervillain who is also a medical doctor. And the supervillain, who feels indebted to Advent 9 because he saved the supervillain's life, eventually confides to him, I've done research, I've been examining you, and I'm pretty sure you have autism. And so Advent 9 has to deal with an autism diagnosis as he solves all these other mysteries in connection with his life. And I wanted to do that because of all the parallels that I saw between autistic people and superheroes, the introversion, the brooding, the secret keeping, the codes of honor they live by. There were all these parallels which were already there, but just weren't being addressed by people. And so I decided to address them.
Interesting.
And yeah.
So can you tell us what the theme of 9 is? And is that going to be important in the
Well,
book?
it's a spoiler. Yeah.
Don't
So,
tell us then.
so 9 is an important number to Advent 9. It's a number that practically rules his life, although not always in obvious ways. It's kind of, it's kind of like a psychological, supernatural almost connection he has to the number 9. And the guy who edited this book, David Farland, who is a best-selling author himself of the Rune Lords, he read the book and he said, "This is the first time I've seen a superhero story done right as a prose novel."
Oh,
And he has seen a lot of superhero stories because he was also the chief judge for Writers of the Future. And he edited the book, gave me a free second pass because he liked the book so much, and agreed to help me publish it. But halfway through the process, he kicked the bucket. So the launch of Advent 9 was a bit rocky. It like most authors, I have a what you could call a test novel, the first one, where you basically learn the ropes. And so Advent 9 was my test novel. And now I'm trying to dive back in with Secret Sky, and I am a lot more prepared with the second book. I learned so many things from trying to promote and sell the first book, and now I am doing a whole lot more for this new installment.
Well, did you self-publish Advent 9 or was that?
Yes, I
Okay.
self-published Advent 9. Um, couldn't get a publisher for it, even with David Farland's help, and he advocated for me really seriously. And just traditional publishing is just not in a good way right now. And there's so much, I hardly need to bring it up here because you can just look it up anywhere. People are talking about it all over the place. Traditional publishing, it's always on the rocks, but it's in a very big period of flux right now. And I don't think anybody quite knows what is going to happen next.
Interesting. Hadn't heard that, but I will do my research obviously because I think Secret Sky, you are having it published by.
No, it is also
Yeah. Oh, it's
self-published.
self-published too. Sorry.
Yeah, Trisolation Media is my company, but
Okay.
you wouldn't know it's a self-published book just by looking at the cover. And part
Well,
of
I
that,
think all of us like try for that goal, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a beautiful book. So this is
I
Secret Sky. This is a
mhm,
hardcover version.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. And
yeah,
I started listening on YouTube. I haven't gotten all the way through the
yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah, the first 12 chapters of Secret Sky are available for free listening on YouTube as an enhanced audiobook experience. And I highly recommend those 12 videos. And also there's an omnibus video with all 12 in one.
Oh,
Um,
that's good to know.
so yeah, I tried to create different videos that appeal to different viewing styles. And the videos, they were a lot of hard work, but people who watch them have enjoyed them, and it's really helped them get into the book. So if you are at all on the fence about Secret Sky, I recommend just doing the free YouTube videos because, anyone can do them. It costs you nothing.
Yeah, I really like I didn't watch the video, I was listening.
Hmm.
But the voices are great. I say cinematography, but the
Yeah.
sounds and the
Yeah, the
music and
soundscape.
the
Yeah.
soundscape. Okay, thank you for
Yeah,
that.
we had got an excellent audiobook narrator named Andrew Iden. And what I didn't know when I hired him is that he's actually a pretty big name in the romance space. He does a few middle grade novels, but he's mostly known for romance. And so my sister-in-law calls me up and she says, "I didn't know you got Andrew Iden to do your book. He's my favorite audiobook narrator." And it's like, oh wow, I didn't know that.
Well, talk to me about Agent. We're gonna jump back to Agent 9 real quick, and then we'll
Yeah.
start about Secret Sky. So why write a superhero?
Like I said, I saw parallels between superheroes and autistic people, and I
Okay.
wanted to explore that because it was right there. It's always there. It's just nobody was really talking about it. So I wanted to do an do a novel where a superhero discovers that not all of his antisocial behaviors are because he is a superhero,
Hmm.
and where he has to team up with a previous supervillain. Like I said, this supervillain is a medical doctor, and this medical doctor who just thought that his nemesis was rude all these years comes to realize, oh, there's actually something there. And so as they start to work together, he starts to having to come clean to Advent 9 about what he thinks is going on. And it's something that Adonai now has to deal with alongside the fact that he's trying to prevent the apocalypse.
Well, and trying to get his memories back, and
Uh-huh.
does he even remember why this guy is a nemesis? Does he remember
Mhm.
saving his life? There's
Yeah.
so much to uncover there.
Yeah, there is a lot to uncover. And it is a bit more mature than Secret Sky. So like I said, probably readers of Secret Sky, most readers of Secret Sky are not going to immediately graduate into Advent 9. It has, language and violence and implied off-screen relations that probably aren't for the same audience. But everyone who reads it says that the ending caught them by surprise, and that it went in ways they weren't expecting, and that it was extremely original, and I've heard had many great compliments about Advent 9, and I'm very proud of it. I'm really looking forward to come back to the series, but right now I'm working on my middle grade series, and that is my priority at the moment.
Fun. Yeah, and you said the main character, you said Advent 9 was young adult. Is the main character, how
Yeah.
old is the
Yeah, the
main
main
character?
character is a 16-year-old boy.
Okay, but he's a superhero, but he doesn't
Yes.
remember why. Okay, wow, that's a lot going on there for a
Hmm.
16-year-old too.
Yes.
And is it set in present day contemporary or is
It's
it
near future. So
near?
like maybe an alternate future that's 5 to 10 years ahead of us.
Okay, so maybe a little bit technology upgrades, but about what we experience. Okay.
Yeah, another side plot point that happens in the book is that people abandon the previous communications networks of fiber optics and satellites because they've invented a way to make quantum entanglement work for communications. Yeah. Yeah,
That's okay. I know what quantum computing is. That's as far as I
yeah.
can get. So,
Well, it's not a central plot point. It's something that happens over the course of the book.
right. Okay. Well, fun. Yeah, and it sounds like a little bit urban fantasy-y,
Yeah, it's definitely
contemporary.
urban, and
Right.
I mean fantasy in the sense that a lot of the science is mostly hand wavium. You know, it's superheroes.
Well, aren't all
Superheroes don't
superheroes?
exactly
Yeah.
follow science to a T.
I think Iron Man tried, but I'm not sure how close he got.
Yeah.
So, well, fun. Yeah, so I did start listening to Secret Sky, and that's interesting that you have in Advent 9 the theme of the dreams, because
Mhm.
in Secret Sky you also have that dream themed.
Yeah. It's a common trope in speculative fiction, science
Okay.
fiction, and fantasy. That is probably the strongest tie between the two books. I mean, they definitely don't take place in the same universe or continuity, but they, in as much as they are speculative fiction, dreams are going to be important in both.
Okay. Okay, we'll dive in and tell us about Secret Sky and Skylar, the main character.
Yeah. Secret Sky, the Young Universe, I really wanted to do I really just wanted to create an amazing fantasy adventure, and I wanted to create something that that could explore big ideas, big philosophical ideas and insights, but through the lens of an adventure. And the characters don't always necessarily know that the adventure they're on has, deeper philosophical meaning. They're just having fun. But in the background, there are all these, insights about the universe and where humanity comes from and what kind of people humans are and our place in the universe. And though the story is just about a boy who loses his family and tries to survive in the aftermath, there are, there are themes. I was able to explore themes in this book really deeply. And I'm really hoping that a lot of people will be able to appreciate that, even people outside the middle grade market, because there are, subtext. The subtext, I think, will appeal a great deal to adults, while the childish fantasy adventure will appeal greatly to kids.
Yeah, I love the beginning of just in how it feels. Well, listening to it felt very magical of
Hmm.
you're describing how the main character Skylar is seen by other people in the village, and he's so excited about, I think it's not a horse, but he's
No.
getting a new baby animal
Hmm.
from his father, and it's the first time he's going to have this responsibility. And
Hmm.
yeah, my kids are a little bit older now, but I used to read to them a lot, and I can imagine that would be something that I would have loved reading to them.
Yeah, and I love to start simple because I think fantasy and science fiction work better when you start simple. I've known too many science fiction books, especially, that start with like a 200-year history of the galactic empire, and then it just throws you into politics and stuff. And I think all books should start simple. And with Secret Sky, I got the opportunity to start real simple with just a boy living in a basically medieval village, and he is just so happy that he is going to be responsible for this new calf that's being born.
Yeah, and I mean, it starts a little bit off of, this is this is the oldest story in time too. It gives
Yeah.
that more
Well,
of
the
a
I had to introduce the narrator first because it is an omniscient narrator and a narrator who has a name and a personality. And so, chapter one, which is only a few pages long, is just the narrator introducing himself. And he is allowed to be a bit cryptic and mystical, but mostly he's also just simply trying to tell you a story. And it's going to get weird and complicated, but right now he's just, I'm going to tell you a story. And the thing about my books is that even though I try to start simple, it never stays that way. They always get really layered and complicated and full of many different character arcs and plot points at the end. But I always keep it simple at the beginning to make it easier to digest. And
Well,
so
yeah,
by
if you have too much coming at you at one time,
yeah,
it's hard to keep
yeah.
up with.
So by the end of the book, Skylar is going to be in a much different place than when he begins. He's going to be handling, the affairs of an entire kingdom. He's going to be trapped in a conflict between knights and kings and lords. And he's going to be, trying to hide the secret of where he came from. Because if anybody finds out he came from this one village, he will be put to death. And so the biggest theme of the book is, the burden of keeping secrets. Secrets can give you power. Having secrets can give you power over others, but they can also make life harder in amazing ways. And so
Okay,
Secret Sky explores the idea of what keeping secrets does to a person.
interesting. And why did you choose to write it as a middle grade book?
Well, I came to the conclusion that I needed a narrator, an omniscient narrator, a named narrator who was familiar with the modern day world, so that he could explain some of the weird philosophical things going on behind the background, because no way is Skylar going to be able to recognize and explain those in narrative. So I knew I needed an omniscient narrator, and I knew I wanted a book that could be read by young people as well as old. And those things kind of come together in middle grade in a big way. And I wanted to make the story, inspiring and something that wouldn't lock people out due to content ages. So middle grade is pretty much the sweet spot for that. And middle grade, I think, it allows people to appreciate a fun fantasy adventure, yet also have, deeper, philosophical underpinnings. I
And do
think
you, I mean, that sounds like, especially the theme of secrets and keeping secrets is perfect for that age because I think they're just, I mean, becoming aware of more society as a whole and how
mhm,
they work in society and how their family works in society and how our society is built. And so,
yeah,
and yeah, and those things that, maybe have, issues with other people or other authorities or, just kind of exploring what it means to share who you are and what you are and how appropriate those things are
yeah.
sometimes. And
Yeah, in middle grade, the middle grade age is where kids start to get a grasp of how the world actually works, including, the dark, gritty underbelly of everything. And so yeah, the idea of keeping secrets becomes more important as we get older because kids can't keep secrets. Young kids can't. They just can't. So, like at the beginning of the story, in this chapter where Skylar is introduced, it talks specifically about how the approaching birth of this new calf is a secret that Skylar simply can't keep. He can't keep it to himself because he's a kid and he doesn't know how to keep secrets. And so he's blurting it out to everyone he can find. And by the end of the first book, he has secrets that could kill him. And so he has to learn how to hold his tongue and how to fake it until you break it. And he just, as things get more and more dangerous, he has to learn how to prevent more and more of affront. And that is a very, that is a coming of age event, learning how to present your public mask, which is something that everybody does.
yeah, that's a huge learning curve for it. I think is he supposed to be about 10? Is
Yes,
that
he is 10 in the books. Um, he He is 10, and over the course of the books, he will age up a bit. But for the most part, this series remains middle grade from start to finish.
Okay. And you said you were writing the second book in the series. Where is that going to take him?
Well, at the end of the first book, he finds himself forcibly indentured into best friendship with the king, the same king that ordered the destruction of his village. That king needs a best friend. He says, I need to pick one from among the children of the noble families. And Skylar is pretending to be the child of one of the king's knights. And he's like, well, he's perfect. I order that boy to be my best friend. And
And
so
how old is the king? Sorry, how old is the king? Is the king an
he's
adult?
10.
The
He is
king is
10 years
10
old.
too. Okay.
Okay. So two 10-year-old boys now, and at the beginning of the second book, sees Skylar trying to fulfill his duties as the king's best friend, knowing that this particular king is responsible for the death of all his loved ones, and how he has to constantly hold his tongue and pretend to be friendly with this person who he would never willingly associate with.
Yeah, that's a lot. So it's interesting that, I mean, was someone advising this king to do this, or are these warring
Yeah.
people?
Well, in chapter three, it makes clear that that the destruction of Skylar's village was the dying request of the previous king, who, is the current king's father. And a lot of mystery is built up as to why the old king would want this one particular no-name village out in the middle of nowhere to be destroyed. And that's a mystery that's going to be addressed as the series unfolds.
Okay. Well, lots of intrigue there. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said you're gonna continue the Advent 9 series as well, so you have a lot to do.
Yes, yes, I really need to get on top of writing these books. It's so hard to write and promote at the same time because they take a lot of work. Like each of those videos I made for the audiobook presentation, each video took me like 2 days to make.
Oh, I can imagine. I was listening. I was like, this is an amazing production.
Yeah, video editing is tedious work. I mean, it's very engrossing work. I can lose an entire day just video editing and not realize where the time has gone. But yeah, it's also work that takes me away from writing. So like I reached 12 chapters and I'm like, okay, this is a good place to stop. This gives people a very generous sample of the book. And then I can just go back to doing the writing work. Of course, I also, as part of my promotion, decided to create like 64 clip videos, which are derived from the chapter videos, where I just take snippets out and then post those as individual videos. And I'm going to release those, like 3 of those a day over the next 20 days or so. And because when you release a lot of videos over regularly over a period of days, it really pleases the YouTube algorithm. And so if people watch even one of the clip videos, YouTube is going to recommend more clip videos to them. And if they watch more clip videos, then YouTube is going to recommend the chapter videos to them. And if they watch all the 12 chapter videos, then hopefully I can get them to read the whole book.
I would bet if they're that committed, I think you pretty much have them. So that's
Yeah.
good. Tell me about your background. Are you were you in literature before, or in English, or in writing,
Oh
journalism?
no, my major was in computer science. I
Okay.
always knew I wanted to be an author, but it was obvious also that I would need a day job. So I went into computer science, learned as much as I learned as much as I could about computer science. And while I was working a job as a software engineer, I was also investing my money because I know that publishing, whether self-publishing or traditional, it still requires a lot of money. And so I, learned as much as I could about investing and built up a cushion to the point where I would be able to support myself writing. And eventually I was able to quit my day job because that cushion expanded so well. And now I am just full-time an author.
That's fun. Great.
Yeah. I started writing in high school. I won a local writing contest, a short story contest, and that pretty much bolstered my confidence that I could actually write books. Tried my hand writing before college. It was all terrible. And eventually found my groove. Um, I was I was finally able to understand what makes great story structure and how to write sentences that would make people want to read the next one. I went to a lot of writers conferences, like dozens of writers conferences, and I learned at the feet of people who knew what they were doing, professionals in the industry. And I think that as far as advice to young writers go, I would say go to whatever writers conferences you can, because there is some great stuff there. Like I don't get the same thing out of writers conferences anymore because I already know so much of this stuff. But for someone who is just starting out, there is nothing that is more beneficial than just going to people who do this for a living and learning from them.
Yeah, I talked to a young writer. She was 14 when I interviewed her, and I really didn't realize she was that young. But she wrote her first novel when she was 12, 13, and she got in this granting program, and I can't remember the name of that, but it was some big author that granted like so many slots a year to be in this writing course with her. And it was very cool. So yeah, I think there's a lot of resources out for all ages of people
Yeah,
that want to write.
that's very cool. And if you have money, then you can you can make things easier, like by hiring a really good editor, like I did with David Farland, although you can't hire him anymore, sadly. And excuse me. Um, you if you have the time and the money, which I realize not everybody does, but you should be going to every author event you can get your hands on, just to talk to people in the industry and build those connections and just build your basic knowledge of this art form. It's an art. You've got to study it. Just like any other profession, you've got to put in the time and learn the craft.
Yeah, really like deciding what people want to read and how people want to read it is a big part of writing, right?
Yeah.
So this is my favorite question to ask all authors, and you can answer it for Secret Sky or Advent 9, and maybe they're the same answer. But what do you want readers to take away from reading your book? If there's one overarching theme or idea
Mhm.
or just experience, what is it that you feel like you want them to take away from reading your books?
Well, with the first book, Advent 9, the thing I want people to take away is I want them to realize, oh, autistic people are just like me. And I think that as beneficial as it is to see, autistic people in roles and representation there, I didn't write Advent 9 to be a representation book. I wrote it to be a book written to people who are not autistic, who can see an autistic person going through their struggles and learn sympathy that way. So with the first book, I definitely wanted people to go away with an appreciation of the lives autistic people lives, despite the fact that it's also an incredibly powerful adventure with like mutants and fights and things like that. So that is what I would like people to take away from that first book. From the second book, I would like them to take away the idea the world they live in is magical, and that secrets, for as burdensome as they can be, are also a kind of magic. And so any world that has secrets, and ours certainly does, is therefore a magical world.
I love that idea. You're the perfect person to come on the Finding the Magic podcast.
Mhm. Yep.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Alan.
Well, I
Your
appreciate it.
Yeah, your Secret Sky comes out August 21st,
August
correct?
21st, but the first 12 chapters are available right now for anyone who wants to listen to them for free.
Yes, and it's Secret Sky by T. Alan Horne is your author name for
Yes.
Advent 9. I believe that's the same author name you use for
Yes,
Advent
it is.
9. And do you have your own website that people can go to?
Yes, go to talanhorne.com. That's T. Alan Horne is one solid word.
Okay.
And right now it is themed around Secret Sky. You're going to see lots of amazing things related to the book there. You're also going, if you go to my blog, which is on the website, you are going to see a lot of great writing advice and ideas about, how to sell and market books. And you may even find a few treasures there.
Oh, fun. I will check it out too then.
Okay.
And follow along. Well, thank you again for being here, Alan, and
Thank
wish
you for
great
inviting me.
success. Bye.
Okay. Best of luck.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.